bad habit of talking and getting into a conversation and then thinking, oh shit, I haven't pressed record. Right. And so I pressed record right at the beginning, so there's no messing about. DJ Stin, finally, I never made it to the hallowed grounds of Leicester to meet you, which I apologise. And you know what? I'm just taken aback by your mucha. And
you like them?
I think they're fantastic. If you can see, I've started, Hannah. I've slowly. I'm trying to grow mine a bit, but you've just completely blasted me out of the water here.
You know what that is though, Sat, isn't it? It's like years and years of growth. And then when this trend about Kundiya Mucha started, I was already ahead of the game anyway. So there's one thing that I've always said, that if the Bhangra game, I never called it an industry, but if the Bhangra game had an award for the longest Mucha, right, I'm winning that hands down. Right, Amritman, you can back down. It's like you got little Muchiya, right, not Mucha. Right, this is a Mocha. Yeah. And you watch, someone will stir that with Amritman somewhere, but I've got way more things to say.
I have backed down. You've definitely won. But you do sometimes predict the future. Recently, I saw a tweet by you where you was talking about McDonald's and Return of the Mac, and you said Leicester's own Return of the Mac, and you said they should use that for an advert or when they make their comeback, and lo and behold, there they did.
Hey, there you go. It was just one of those moments. I'm sitting there during lockdown. A lot of things have happened, right, and a lot of great Zen-like thoughts have happened to people, and you know they become more spiritual, or some people have worked on getting a bit more productive and the things that they've been doing. I just think about anything that comes into my head, I'm putting it up, right? And it's there, but it was a good idea though, isn't it? You got to admit.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It works really well. And but for yourself, have you always been a creative soul? Is that the kind of the way you grew up, or did you? Yeah, as a young lad. So, what was your kind of aspirations then?
Yeah, when I was like a real young kid, right? It's okay. I was a bit of a weird one. Right, I'm never been Mr. Popular, and I never want to be Mr. Popular. Right, so even when I was at school, people liked me for who I was. Right, so I was never going chasing some kind of recognition or some kind of elevation like that. It was never about that. But what I had, and I've always had this love for doing things differently. Right, and then just applying myself. If I want to learn something, I will go and learn it, and I will go and do what I need to do in that, and I'll express myself. Right, so I've always been an expressive type person. As a young kid, I used to love writing poetry. Right, just absolutely love it. I love writing in general. Right, which is a side of me that not many people know, because you don't go to find it. It's there on the internet. I've written loads of things, but it's not there for people to. I don't give myself full good bump to show it, right? But from an early age, it was always right. Let's get a bit of poetry in there. Drawing, I used to love drawing. So by the time I was, I'd say, I was growing up, and as a young kid, my granddad used to take us to the Gurdwara every single weekend. So he used to pick us up from school, me and my brother, on a Friday. We'd go with him, pick my bibi up, go and do a bit of shopping, right? Go to the meat shop and just go and buy some chicken diyalata. Right, and then we'd go back to my granddad's house, right? And then after Friday, so we'd eat our chicken, very nice, and everything was all good, right? And we'd chill out. And then what he used to do was on a Saturday, he used to take us to the Gurdwara, because he was one of the head sevadars in one of the Gurukar in Leicester, Guru Nanak Gurdwara, when it used to be on a street called New Walk. So anyone who's old in my age group in Leicester, I wouldn't say old, we're kind of middle-aged now, right? It's like a midlife crisis, right? But people know of him. He was what I would say is an OG, right? He was respected by everyone, and through the work that he did and the seva that he did, because we were always in and around the Gurdwara, I wanted to, like, when everyone else was playing and they were just like wrestling and stuff, and because there used to be a wrestling school there as well, I'd be sitting with the Gyanis. And I'd always just sit next to the Gyani, and I'd always ask them, okay, you know what, can you teach me tabla? Can you teach me harmonium? So at a very young age, right, they started to teach me, and they were my first ustads, right, Gyani Balwinder Singh and Gyani Amolak Singh, right. So they started teaching me how to play instruments, and through that, it was right. Okay, I've got this now, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't take it as seriously as I should have back then because I was a kid. So fast forward a couple of years, and all of a sudden, I want to buy a keyboard, right? And this is when that was the bit of the rage. I bought this really small, dingy little Casio keyboard, and then all I would do is I would just like learn tunes, right? Any tune that came into my head, I'd learn it. Oh, before that, my mama came from India. And when he came from India, he had like a stack of records that he started buying when he was here. So I was hearing all the old folk records. So your wall, I love it. Look at it at the back, right? Exactly. You've got an eclectic mix of music. So he used to play tumbi as well, right? So he bought a tumbi from India, and I just picked it up one day and I started to learn off him, and I could play tumbi. So by the time I'm hitting my teens, I can play tabla, I can play bhaja. Right, not to an ustad level, but I could play. Right, I could play tumbi. I could play an electronic keyboard. And when the Bhangra scene really started kicking off, would go down, we'd buy tapes, or we'd hear something, and I would, within seconds, put my hands on a keyboard, a bigger keyboard by that time, and I would be able to play pieces quite easily.
Yeah.
Right off, and it was that's where the love of music kind of started.
Yeah.
Drawing, I continued drawing. Street art. By that time, hip hop was coming in, and I was basically doing a bit of graffiti here and there, even at school. I remember one project we had once, and it's like, okay, do something creative, which is a bit of a break from the norm. Was like what the teacher wanted. So what I did is we walked around the school, and I found this big, massive sheet of wood. Right, and it was must be around 5 foot tall by around 7 foot wide, and I brought it into the art room, and he's like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I say, "Well, I'm going to do graffiti." Right, and it's like, "What's that?" Right, you can't just scrawl words like anarchy, and I go, "No, it's an art form." So and I did this. I did this piece of work, and back then I had this vision in my head, right, that I'm going to start something creatively, and I'm going to call it PJD, right? And when I did that, I had this picture, and I'll take a picture of the actual picture as well and post it up online at some point, and I'll tag you in so you can see it.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
That was it, and it was just like, okay, wow, it was there. So I've always had that kind of that steer towards doing something creatively. I was never a real sports person, right? Football, I play with friends, but I was never into it that much. That was my be-all and end-all. Mine was come home and play keyboard, draw, and then when I was in my teens, by the time I got to around 15, I bought my first turntables, belt drive turntables, and do you remember hip hop? There used to be a hip hop magazine back in the day, Hip Hop Connection, HHC. If you're a hip hop fan,
they would know.
The hip hop fans will know about it, right? And
I'm a Rick Astley fan, mate.
Hey, Rick Astley, never going to give you up, mate. Don't worry about it. It's all good. It's music. And in the back of there used to be this advert set, right? And it was like, okay, buy your own DJ turntables and mixer. Right, so I had some money saved up from chores that I did, and we used to have a factory, and I used to go down there at the weekends, and my dad used to just give me a couple of quid here and there, just for helping out, making teas, really. And then what I did is I bought these turntables, and they were the shittest turntables that you could buy, right? Belt drive turntables. Anyone who's DJ'd, if you've DJ'd on belt drive turntables and you could mix, and to a certain extent start scratching, right? It's like, I will rate you as top tier DJ, right? Yeah. And that's it. That's where it all just basically kicked in. My love of hip hop was what drove me to turntables. My love of Bhangra and Panjabi music is what got me the stack of records that I needed. First gig I did was probably end of my around 16, and that's it. So from that point, so I class myself by 15 is when I started in this game.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 45 this year. Yeah. That's 30 years in the game.
Yeah.
Right. And within 30 years of the game set, and I don't do interviews. I don't really come out. But it's come to a point now where, with you, with this podcast, right, and this is why I wanted to do it with you originally, right? A podcast isn't your standard interview. It's not, okay, you know what, that's all right. So immediately it's not about that, right? And that's where it chops down. So when you can openly speak, that's what you want to do. So for 30 years, in that 30 years, I've done pretty much everything that you can do in the music game. Pretty everything, right? From not only producing, but to writing, right? To playing instruments on tracks, to doing backing vocals. I've even vocaled some stuff which I've never released. I've rapped, I've not released. Radio, the radio stuff when I was working on radio. I've been a radio presenter. I've been a radio producer. I've been a music manager at the britishasian network as well. So I've done all that. The only thing that I haven't done is TV. Because they said that I had a face for radio, and that's why when you said I'm gonna have to come on camera, I had to get the Mucha game on strong, right? So that kind of explains that in as well.
Yeah, beautifully tied back to the Mucha. Fantastic. I mean, we were gonna that's a fantastic story. You know, you've kind of gone through that very quickly within your life, and I know you was doing mixtapes when they were real cassettes. You know, and so some of your eclectic sort of tastes as well. I know you're saying hip hop and Bhangra, and now it seems to be the norm these days, hip hop and Bhangra. But when you probably started, it wasn't such a thing, right? To mix them two genres. Why do you think these two genres work so well together, even now?
Well, the first thing is when you look at the BPMs of both of them, right, in the most traditional form. So when you had Panjabi folk music, right, it's okay, you know, it was in the same type of tempo range as hip hop was, right? And what you also had, and this is really important, Sat, because what we're seeing right now in both hip hop and in Panjabi music, right, is okay, it's changed. The culture's changed in both of them. So in Panjabi music, especially with old folk music from Punjab, right, is okay, you know what, there were stories, right, and they meant something. They told you something. You learned something from them, right? And in the early days of hip hop was exactly the same, right? It's okay, you had party tracks in exactly the same way you had with folk tracks. So you know, Chumkila 1 minute would be Maring Lalakare, right, on his first, second, and thirds, right? And then at the same time, is okay, you know what, he would come out with a lokdat, right, a style of Punjabi song which gives you a bit of knowledge. In exactly the same way, look at hip hop, right? In the early days, it was it started off as party music, just mixing breaks, and then the MCs were just there to hype it. But then all of a sudden, right, when White Lines came out, right, it's okay, you know what? It was a message, right? And it's that message that then kind of empowers people as well, and that was prevalent in hip hop back then. So for hip hop, that kind of saved me in my younger years, in my teenage years. Right, because I went to a pretty much all-white school, right, and going to an all-white school in the 80s, you know this, you've been through this as well, right? It's okay, you know what, the words that would be said to you, right, and the angst that was there towards you, right, is okay, you know what, you had to hold your own, right? Now the good thing is I've got the gift of the gab, right? Maharaj, I mean, they blessed me with that, so I could get myself out of a sticky situation very, very easily, right, through the gift of the gab. But where you needed that attitude and that ankh, right, is okay, you know what, artists like Public Enemy gave me that, right, straight off, right? It was always a case of, okay, you know what, when I used to listen to Fight the Power, right, and Public Enemy in general, right, it's okay, the message that came out, it was something that was empowering, right? And then you've got your Panjabi ankh, right, and you've got you've grown up on Panjabi folklore, right? You've heard like songs of Udham Singh and Bhagat Singh, right? And then, you know, especially within Daddi culture, because, you know, I've always been like really close to Daddi culture, right? Because of my mummy, right? And with that, it was always a case of, okay, you know, I'm hearing stories of Banda Singh Bahadur, I'm hearing stories of Baba Deep Singh. Baba Deep Singh is my hero, right? So when we look at superheroes, anyone who knows me knows that Baba Deep Singh, right, is there. That's it. There is no other, right? So that ankh and that angst, instead of basically putting it out there and just trying to fight and stuff, right, it's okay, you know what, you use it cleverly, right, and you use that attitude and that brazenness, right, just in the conversation to back things down, right? So handle your own and put things down. But you know what, it's a weird one, Because once you've got that mindset, it's about power, right? Let's put it straight that if you're a powerful person, if you have to say that you've got power, then you haven't really got power at all, right? And it's that mindset. So the mindset was key. The music, then the BPM start mixing it in together. Because I'm listening to so much hip hop, and at the same time I'm listening to so much Punjabi music.
Yeah.
When I got those turntables, I had hip hop vinyls with instrumentals, and I had Punjabi vinyls with songs on there. It was natural. It just happened. Yeah. And especially when I'm listening to DJs like Terminator X and DJ Jazzy Jeff, right? Is okay when you'd see, we only used to get videos back then, right, from America, right, through through mates and cousins, and when I see those guys and what they were able to do, and you start thinking, okay, you know what, there's something in it. And then I was going to gigs at the age of 13. Right, Punjabi gigs at the age of 13, right? It's okay. I've been blessed with testosterone, so my daddy came early, right? So we could get into gigs, right? So I'd go with my brother and his mates and stuff, right, and my cousins and stuff, and we'd go to gigs. And I remember going into a gig in Leicester, and there used to be a DJ, and I've never been able to find him in my adult life, and I really do want to find him, right? It's a guy called Omar High Frequency, right? And what he did on the turntables in this club in Leicester, right? I was like, wow, okay, you've just done the impossible. So this is at 13 years old, I'm seeing this, right? That he's basically taken a Punjabi record and he's got breaks and he's scratching on top and he's mixing them in. He had these mixes which were solid. I'm like, okay, you know what, that's me. I'm doing that. Right, and every gig that we used to go to, right, is the lads used to basically have a glass and stuff and get on the dance floor. They're having a laugh on the dance floor, right? Anyone who wanted to do like anything else, right, and you know what happens at gigs, right? They're doing it aside, but you'd see this little hairy kid in the corner, right, just basically looking at the DJ, right, just looking at Omar and seeing what he's doing, and just I was learning as much as I could, right, because this was us. This was a brown person, right, in the UK playing the music that my family understood, but in the style of hip hop, right? So when I got the opportunity to buy those turntables, every day honestly, right now, if I just shift myself this way, is where my little hi-fi system used to be. I still live in the same house, right? And my hi-fi system used to be there. Come home from school, grab 2 tables, put them down, put my turntables on top, plug in all of the cables, go and get my records from the end of the room, put them down, stick my headphones on, whack the volume up, right, and wait for my BB to come in, right? So I'll keep it up on that, right? And they saw the evolution. They heard the clanging and clattering of beats that weren't on time to actually hearing, right, exactly something that was legibly music, right? And they backed me for it, and I really appreciate that all the way through my life. That I've always had the backing of my parents and my grandparents, and my granddad, like I said, he was a hero to me as well, right? It's if you've got people like that who will nurture you, and remember, think about this is back in the 80s and 90s, right? That you've got people that will give you that freedom, right? Because up in Punjabi, right, even to this day, right, there's people who will really just like strangle any kind of creativity out of our kids,
definitely,
right? And not allow them to be who they are. Right, so I'm lucky to have grown up and had that freedom. So if I've had that freedom, then that's something that I want to give to my kids as well. So
I definitely agree.
It served me well
with the family and that, and it's beautiful that your family supported you. Like kind of for myself, my dad was never really into me. I joined the Bhangra group, Bhangra group, and I used to do the bolliyan, and he was going, and all. He weren't very happy about it, right? And I used to have this big speaker that I used to lug around, like a PA speaker that I used to practice with, and I brought it home. It's a big old thing, and back in the 80s, and he made me return it back to the manager's house. It's a good old half a mile walk, really, and we didn't have a car then, right? And he was never, but then he saw me once do it, and this is Punjabi folk dancing. I mean, I weren't doing hip hop music or anything, that may have upset him, but I didn't really have that support. But I carried on. I just loved it, I loved the music, and I persevered. Eventually, he thought, he's never going to stop, so I might as well kind of support him. So I've got kids now, and I'm like you. So when they say to me, "Look, I want to be an artist," last week they wanted to be YouTubers. This week they want to be, artists. But I would support them and say, because I understand that creativity. That's kind of the way my mind works as well. and like yours does. You know, I like to see things in a different way. When I had the previous show, the British Asian podcast, I stopped it when it was kind of doing pretty well, and I could have carried on and on and on. And but
why did you stop, Sam?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people ask me that. They said, "Why did you stop?" You know, because I had a kind of a good name as well, right? The British Asian podcast, right? And but I felt it kind of constrained me within the Asian community. So whenever I wanted to try and get someone who wasn't Asian on that I really liked and was interested in, was a creative, I thought it's not really going to work in this brand. And they were kind of reluctant to come on because when they knew the name was British Asian Podcast, they wouldn't come on. And I think I got to a point I kind of was getting a bit bored of the style I was doing. And I needed to take a break. And I thought I'd come back. I called it SMT for this one because it's Satman Talks to whoever comes on, right? So and I couldn't really bother thinking of a name again, so I thought SMT will do, right? Let's get it out there. And that's kind of why there's a few reasons why I stopped, and people were saying, "No, you shouldn't have stopped," you know, blah blah blah. But I always think it's good to refresh yourself, and you know, like a David Bowie or Madonna. I'm not comparing myself to them two, but do you know what I mean? Like, just to take a step back, because there's a lot of podcasts these days. There's a lot of Instagram lives. There's a lot of Facebook lives. A lot of interviews going on at the moment. A lot of content being created because of COVID-19. So I just thought I need to take a step back and I want to do something slightly different. I've got some bigger plans for this. At some point, I want to be in a studio space, face to face with someone, you know, and that's my aim. But Zoom seems to have worked. It means I can crank out 2 shows a week, which I'm going to carry on doing. I'm already on episode 22, and I've only been around a couple of months. I've only been back for a couple of months, right? So,
hey, that's the work ethic. It's brilliant.
Yeah, the thing with me, Stin, right? I get kind of obsessed with things, and in my younger days, I was obsessed with Bhangra music. Then I was obsessed with training, like football. Then I got obsessed with drinking, and I got obsessed with drugs, even, right? And I kind of went off the wrong road, right? And it took me a lot of hard work, a lot of years to drag myself back. And ultimately, what helped me is shows like this, creativity, expressing myself, because I felt trapped within myself, because I felt I could do things, but I really didn't know how to do it, you know. And that's what took me on the road of negativity and being around with the wrong crowd and kind of sort of giving up on life almost to an extent, you know. So creativity has definitely saved my life, I would say.
You know, I hear that, Sat, because, you know, I've, like, even me personally, right? I was there. Think about it. When at my peak, what people would consider my peak, right, was back in the Envy days, right? So I've had the 2 albums out, right, and I've had a couple of little projects that were coming out. Just Another Stinting, right, was nearly ready, right, and this is going back to 2005, 2006, right? Exactly, you know, I've worked on it, and I had all the pre-production done, and this is when obviously I've gone over to the BBC and stuff, and it's at that point that I've kind of then started taking a back seat, because when I joined, one of the things that was being said to me quite a lot was, okay, you can't release music because it was a conflict of interest, right? So I had to then put everything on the back burner just to find the ground, and then kind of convince the higher ups to say that, right, okay, look, I'm never going to be promoting my own stuff. If it comes out on a label, you know that I'm affiliated with Envy. I'm never going to give due preference to anyone. And, you know, I pride myself on that I have never done that. Right, exactly. I've always thought that if we can elevate the scene up to a level, because remember, think about it, through hip hop, I was looking at things like Wu-Tang Clan, right? And a collective like Wu-Tang Clan is, okay, the business mind and how they were not dictated to by the market. They were an entity in themselves. So I've always thought that to try and lift that. So I kind of then left it. Right, it's okay. You know what? I've got it's a brilliant job. I'm working with music every single day. I get the opportunity to work with artists and help develop their careers. There's quite a lot of artists that okay, when music came into the network, that, you know, I supported before anyone else, right? And then I made sure that they had the spots on either daytime playlists or in specialist shows just to get that music out. So that was my passion. Let's see the scene thrive. Right, because we were in a really good place at that time. After that, I went through a really bad negative stage in my life when my granddad died. Before that, I had around 9 deaths in 3 years in my family and my friends, and depression was there. When my granddad passed away, everything just kind of broke, and I couldn't handle it, right? And this was exactly the same time that my daughter was due to be born, right? So my granddad passed away on the 2nd of January. My daughter was her due date was a couple of weeks afterwards, right? So I've gone into deep depression just at that point. When I've come back from my granddad's funeral, one of my cousins, Suki, right? He was meant to come down to the funeral, and as we've come back home, one of my cousins has pulled me to one side. He goes, "Listen, I know that now's not the time, but Suki's just passed away." Right, and Suki was like, he was a couple of months younger than me, so we've grown up, right? And he was like, he was close. And when that happened, Sat, is everything just went, and I went into a spiral of deep depression. Right, I was clinically depressed, borderline suicidal, given every happy pill under the sun, right, just to basically try to address this. But the good thing is, my GP is brilliant, and if you've got a good doctor, they will help you rather than just giving you the meds, right? They'll try to basically figure something out. So they got me into therapy, right? And I went through rounds of therapy, right, over a period of time. And what the therapist was able to do was just then kind of unhook that negativity, and it had all been there. Well, not negativity, but that low energy, which had been there from when my dad passed away, all right, in 1998. But I'd never been able to address that. I'd never been able to grieve properly. So that whole period, I should have been releasing music at that point. I should have been, right, coming out and giving you at least one more album, right, which was an extension of my soul, because that's the way that I always looked at my albums when I created them. There's a flow. So if you listen to when I did 100% Desi back in the day in Canada, right, when you listen to the cover up and when you listen to Destination, there's a flow, right? There's a lot of thought that went into it, which track goes where, the interludes that I put into all of those, right? And there's as well as the music that is your party music, there was an element in both albums where I wanted to put that Lork type music in there, right? So in Cover Up we had that Comedy Yardi Comedy. I wanted to put a Sufi column in there, right? I did Mitrandanarto Khanik Maida, right? Because there's knowledge in there. Yeah. In Destination, right, there was the Malik track as well, right? So that the Surme, right? So that was in there. So there was a lot of thought. Now the next album was there, and it was the pre-production was ready, and I should have gone to it. Once I got out of that depressive period, and I was thankful because Maharaj got me through it, wow. Right? To the extent that I was in India, in a Dharmakistan, right? And a very spiritual person turned around to me, and he looked at me and he's like, what's going on? And there was an episode that happened. I won't go into details of exactly what happened, right? But after that, he just turned around and said, okay, what's going on? And you're still taking these tablets, right? Shall I tell you something? You don't need these tablets, because the energy that you've got and the aura that you've got and the spiritual energy that's protecting you, right, can never be touched, and you're not letting it come through. That day, I threw away my antidepressants. And think about it, I'm alone in India, my family's not with me, I'm alone in India, and I've thrown these antidepressants in the bin. And they always say to you, do not come straight off antidepressants. Yeah? One thing that I'll say, sir, and I'm really lucky for this, and I wouldn't recommend this to anyone, go and get the help that you need. But my mind was spiritually in a place at that point in time that the evolution and the strength that I've needed for the challenges that have come after that in life, right, I was able to handle, right? So I got stronger, and my faith got me stronger and stronger and stronger. I started to understand, right, my faith more, right, more than anything. So by the time I've come back, I've then started to think about, and when I left the BBC, I started to think about releasing music again. So I released a single, Shared, right, and it was there. And again, my intention was to start to get back into music. After that, other things have happened in my life, right? And again, I'm not going to go into detail, but I've been through periods of my life in this last 45 years, right, which most people would cave under, right? If I wouldn't have gone through that depressive period, if I wouldn't have gone through that healing that I needed when my granddad passed away, right, there is no way I would have survived mentally, right, what has happened in the last, what, say, 6-7 years, right? And people don't need to know that. I don't need to be on social media and letting people know, oh, this is going on in my life. I think social media is that's the weird part of it, right? And I don't need to do that. I don't need to put my life on, on public display, right? For what? Do I want some kind of pseudo sympathy? Right, that people, oh no, I'm really sorry about it. It's not about that. Where I see someone who's struggling, and I can pick up now through people's tweets, right, where okay, you can see the balance in where they normally are. What I'll do is I'll just basically send a message, right, privately. Okay, are you okay? Right? Yeah. Do you need to talk? If you do, right, then you've got my number, you've got my details, right? If you need to talk. And I've been able to help friends out in that kind of situation. Yeah, but right. Once I'm now coming, like I'm in a position now where I didn't need to do music, right? I've right now, Sat, if I told you life is so good, right at the moment, Maharaji Gerbar, right, is okay. I'm in a really brilliant job, right? So I'm sound in that way. So my day job. Another thing is also music's one side of me. Yeah. And this is what people know. They know DJ Stin. But if you knew Stin Mattu in a professional context, what's happened at every single point in my professional career is I've not clocked one industry. I've clocked around 3 industries, right? In the last 25 years? Yeah. Right? I've been able to do that since 20. I've clocked 3 industries, right? And I've been able to, like I said, I'm obsessive. When I've got something in my teeth, I go for it. Yeah. What I'm doing right now, I'm one of 3 people qualified in this country, right, for a professional qualification to teach it, right? And that's just part of my job. So I'm really enthused with that. Music it's just fun for me now, right? Yeah. But going back to the episode, and you'll know this because you've been through this. None of those down times, right, that you go through, they're the ones that build your character. Oh yeah. And through those times, like when you look back at those times, you've got so many life lessons now that we've got white hair now. We look like we've got real great wisdom, right? But and that's why we don't die, right? It's okay because we understand the natural order, right, of what happens in the world, and we're stronger for it, Sat. And this is why we connect, right? It's okay. Me and you, we don't know each other. We're not mates. We've never really, we've never met in person, Sat, as far as I can remember, no. Right? But the conversations that we had, right, especially when you were starting the British Asian podcast, I'm like, yeah, you know what? We're on a level. I've got this thing, right? I'm not sure if you've seen it on social media, but I call it natural state, right? And this is something that one of my friends has been pushing me to write a book on, right? Natural state it's a state of mind. So when people say that they're life coaches, right? Bullshit. Yeah, 100%. Bullshit, right? Yeah. You cannot coach someone on their life because you have not walked in their shoes, right? Anyone who says they're a life coach, right, is in for the moolah. That's what it is, right? Yeah. So with natural state, if you've ever seen my Box Fresh posts on Facebook, on Instagram. I was going to mention your Box Fresh because I read them and I enjoy them because sometimes you can start a week and feel a bit shit and a bit tired. You may be working too hard. And I read them and I think, you know what? Last week was shit. But Monday, it's Box Fresh. We can start again. The opportunity's there. And I do read them. So please keep going on, right? And I do really enjoy them. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? So when I do that kind of stuff, right? It's okay. One of my friends once asked me, right? It's okay. Why do you do it? Right? It's okay. You know what do you get out of doing that? And what I said to him is, do you know those Box Fresh posts, right? Some of them, and majority of them, are actually my life, right? And it might not be something that I'm thinking right there at the moment, but it could be something that happened over the couple of weeks there. And that energy is still flowing in my mind. And then what I've got to do is I've got to tell myself, I've got to give myself direction on what I need to do to basically progress. And what do I need to do to move on? Right? How do I close that to move on to the next Box Fresh chapter? Right? So the Box Fresh posts have been going for way long. That turned into natural state, and I started thinking in a different way. Right? And what natural state is each and every one of us are different, but we're the same, right? So we're connected to a supreme being, right? I don't call the Almighty, him or her, they're beyond all of that, right? That energy and that life source, right, is what basically is there for all of us. And we've all got different paths, right? So when it comes to spirituality and it comes to faith, when people say the word religion, I don't like the word religion, right? I like the word faith, because religion will tell you what to do by someone writing it down and they've told you and that's why you're doing it. Faith is what you believe from the inside. So with faith, it drives you, right? And each one of us will have a different viewpoint on things in life. We've got different journeys and we're going to experience different things. So being natural in your natural state will always give you the best quality of life, because you're not forcing yourself outside of what you're not meant to be. And I'm not saying that you don't progress and grow and challenge yourself, but you've got to do that on your own terms. You can't do that to be socially accepted, right? And social acceptance, again, going back to social media, is the killer of everything right now.
Absolutely.
Well, what we're living in right now, that echo chamber of trying to please people for the sake of pleasing people, right? Don't do it. It's honestly, Kanye, right? What you're doing, you've got bipolar. You shouldn't be using these platforms, right, to project that, because what's happening is you're just getting that wave of negativity back, right? So everything that you do it naturally. Be yourself, and again, your character will come through, and you'll start that growth period.
Yeah.
Within natural state, there's another concept, right? And it is the whole thing about natural state is about concepts, right? And the concept of infinite realities, right? That's what I call it. Now, with infinite realities, so we're sitting here right now and we're recording a podcast. Yeah, this is your podcast. You're experiencing what we're going through, and I'm experiencing what we're going through. Both of us are doing it, but it's totally different for both of us.
Yeah.
Your perspective and my perspective are going to be like different, even though the situation in what we call reality, right, is the one reality, right? So it's our collective reality. Then we've got our individual realities, right? I'm sitting in my living room, right? My wife's in the same room as well, right? She's probably experiencing a different reality because she's got headphones on. She doesn't want to hear my shit all the time, right? So she's experiencing a different reality. My son is in the next room down station. My daughter's probably upstairs in her room singing, right? So this moment is, look at how many realities have just happened in this moment. Now amplify that to every single person and every single being on earth, how many realities you've got. And we're only understanding what we can understand as human beings, right? So when we look at the cosmos and the universe and we start to expand that out, when they say that we're looking for life forms on other planets, yeah, we're looking for life forms in the understanding of what we know on other planets.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
On other planets, there could be life forms, but they're not physical. They could be temporal. They could be anything, right? So the reality that we live, right, is our own personal reality, right? And it's different for every single person. When this podcast comes out, we're really engaged with this conversation that we're having right now. Most people are going to say he's chatting shit, right? And that's their reality while they're consuming it, having a cup of tea, or when they're on their way to wherever they're on the way to. Right? If you're in Leicester, you ain't going nowhere. We're still on lockdown, right? That's our reality, right? But when we think about, if we can understand that there's infinite reality, so what we perceive to be the truth is the truth from our perspective. If we can just understand that other people are seeing different things in the same truth, we might have a society, right, that can tolerate a bit more between ourselves, right? We can be more cohesive, right? It's not about my view is the only view. I'm not right, because my reality is what I think it should be, and that's right for me, and that's what I want to live. And as I progress in life, right, I will live in my reality little bubble, right? My family won't be living in the same one. When I pass on, I don't know what's in the afterlife, right? I don't know if my karma have been good enough for me to attain, like, spiritual elevation to Sachkhand, right? Because that's what I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if I said that to someone who's of a different faith, they can say, what's Sachkhand? Right? I don't want to go to heaven or hell, right? Or whatever they want to do, because that's their belief, right? So we need to accept one thing, that we're all different, and the difference is the beauty.
100%. Yeah.
Because if we were all the same, right, it's okay. I'd be sitting here looking like you, and we've just been having a conversation, right, where we just probably saying the same words back to each other. What fun would that be?
Yeah, it'd be boring. Absolutely. And that's And I think you're absolutely right, because I think this is the problem with social media, because we're perceiving realities which are not even real. You know, when we look at other people and we see people in a gym and, you know, they've got their abs out and we don't know what they've been doing, what kind of steroids they've been taking or what kind of diets they've been on. And you know, we look at people on holidays and we think, oh, they're always on holiday and they've got money and they've got cars, and we don't know what's going on within their relationships. They could be unhappy. They could be complete arseholes. And that's the thing. And I think we're projected by these images every day. And when I look at other shows, like you said, I've learned so much from the tough parts in my life. Nothing really affects me now. This is all fun, right? So when I see other shows and, you know, thousands of likes and they've got a superstar Diljit Dosanjh's on and all, it doesn't really bother me any day, because do I really want to talk to Diljit? I mean, yeah, if he wants to come on, great, but what's he going to tell me? What am I going to learn? Am I going to learn about infinite realities? You know, am I going to learn about a deeper meaning of life? I'm not. I'm going to learn about his new album, right? And I don't always want to talk about things like that, as you know. No. My shows are like that, right? I want to learn about more things. There's more to life than projecting how successful we are and how great we're doing, you know. So, and you're right, we can all perceive things differently. We can go and watch the same film and you could say it's shit and I could say, oh, that was great. All right. And it's the same film, you know, it's not changed, but it's how we perceive it and it's our experiences and how we relate to that film or piece of art or music or any kind of photography or whatever it is, right? So, and you're right, and it's just, even within my house, you know, my kids have got their own little worlds going on. You know, they're young and they've got their own little worries about where they've left their doll and they can't find their little, you know, piece of Lego or whatever it is. That's their big worry in their life. You know, I'm worried about, you know, are we going to go on holiday this year, or, you know, how's work going to be tomorrow, and this kind of thing, you know. So we're all kind of battling them things. But I think the overarching thing in the world at the moment is this social media. You know, you talked about Kanye West at the moment, and it's quite obvious that we can see this guy's not well, and the torrent of abuse he's getting, and he's probably consuming that, and it's probably and he's going around in a cycle, and it's probably getting worse for him. You know, it's a tough world out there, I think, with social media. It was meant to make our lives happy, social media.
It's turned into unsocial media.
Yeah.
Right,
absolutely.
Where, like you're saying, exactly. You know what, Kanye, right? Yeah, is batshit crazy as some of the things that he says are. Right, who are we to judge him as a person? No. We can judge what he says. Yeah, you can say that. Okay, he's been a bit weird now, and that's crazy, right? But we can't judge him because we don't know him to the way that he knows himself, right? And his family know him, his friends know him, right? We see what's going on, and yeah, straight off when he came out with, right, I'm going to run for president. It's like, bro, what you doing, man? Don't do. You know what? Don't. There's much bigger problems in America, and the Americans will be able to tell us, right, what's going on in their country, right? Is that, you know, and we get in this echo chamber of, right, Trump this, Trump that, and I'm guilty of it because I've got an opinion, right? But opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one, right? And some stink more than others, right? So it's like, that's our opinion of what's going on. That's our social commentary. And should people have social commentary? Yes, they should, because that's what keeps the narrative going, and that's what keeps people talking, and especially about like political situations and stuff, right? You need to do that. But where it comes down to personal attacks, right? And then, you know, and especially someone who's, you know, that he's bipolar. He's worn that on his sleeve. He said that time and time again. So you're then bullying someone, right, with a mental health issue, right, by going in to that level, right? And you're right, when you're the energy that you consume, right, and the energy that you see, if Kanye switched off his Twitter and his socials and spent time, right, you know, in a meditative state in whatever he enjoys, which is music, right, when he's in that zone, there is no one better than Kanye West as a producer, right? In his moment, right, for the music that he does, there is no one best, because that's Kanye West, and that's why we know Kanye West, because he's the best person to do that style of music. Yeah, he's king in himself. But if he's being influenced now, right, and this is the whole thing about likes and shares and all of that bullshit that goes on these days, right, is you're consumed in that. You're not actually your art is taking a back step. Yeah,
definitely,
right. You've lost it. Forget it. It's not about your art, it's about your ego, right? So now let your ego go, right? And and soon as the ego starts to basically then build, what was your art and an extension of your soul, which music and any kind of art should be, right? Then turns into an extension of your ego, right? And you may have seen on socials over the last couple of days, right? I've been talking about something called idol complex. Yeah. Now, idol complex is we're looking at people now. It's bravado. Yeah. And it's people think that they're some kind of idol to people, right? Social media right now is, I remember back in the day, don't know if you looked up to someone, it's because you saw the graft and you saw the end result of the graft, right? So when we'll go back to Bhangra and hip hop and music, right? When we look at those pioneers in both of those genres, yeah, Kuldeep Manik, right, didn't have social media, right? Lal Chand Yamla Jatt didn't have social media. Shiv Kumar Batalvi didn't have social media, right? It's through their art that people knew them, right? And people got to know them. And why did people what was the resonating factor, right? What was the energy being put out for people to connect to that, right? Think about it, right? There was something there. The art meant something, and that's what made the person successful, right? We're living in an age right now, Sat, yeah, where in Panjabi music in general, and I heard Aman's podcast with you last week, and where you were talking about, this whole gangster culture, right? Yeah, in Canada, right, Bindi Jor, we didn't live in Canada, but we all knew about Bindi Jor, right? So the gang culture was there, and it was like a really gully gang culture, right? So we knew about that. The music wasn't what charged that. The situation of what they were living, right, is what brought that about, right? So if that's there and that was their reality, right, they weren't making music, yeah? If they made music and they basically talked about like the situations that they were in, there, NWA, it's a reality, right? That's what you're seeing on the street. It's a reflection of that, right? I get that. In Punjabi music right now, yeah, and like, when it comes to hip hop, right, I don't give a flying fuck what anyone says, right? I'm not an authority on that, right? But I will tell you one thing that, okay, you know what? I've been part of that culture of hip hop culture and Punjabi music culture, right? So, I know it. And I'm not trying to basically go out there, so to make some broad statement. But think about this, right, and think about it clearly. Don't know half of these kids that are out there now making music, right? Especially that they want to be, but you see hip hop, yeah, right? And I'll tell you a funny story in a second. But you see hip hop, yeah, and hip hop, right? Then go and make the hip hop, right, that Public Enemy made, yeah. Go and make conscious hip hop. So when Sidhu talks about Tupac, when has Sidhu, in all of this time that he's been successful, where's Brenda's Got a Baby? Yeah, right? Where's Keep Your Head Up? Where's Changes? Yeah, they're nowhere to be seen because you haven't got the mental capacity, right, to actually show this is like Dibyanna Poth, right, is getting close to that, right? And I'll give him credit for that. This, Amrit Maan, again, another artist like who's going through that. And there's many of them, right? Many of them that are living this bravado. It's not your life, bro. It's not your life, right? Seriously, right? Everyone's a gangster until you have to do gangster shit, right? That's the saying, right? Put these guys in a room, right, with some of some real gangsters, and you'll quickly see that they'll appreciate these guys for their music, but not for their gangster prowess. If you put a strap in Sidhu's hand and said, okay, listen, right, we're going to go and do X, Y, and Z, Sidhu will be, man, so there you go, right? But there are people, right, who are in the game right now, right, who probably live that life, and they can rap about that life, right? And it's not about incriminating anyone, but I know of people who are who live this life, right, this street life. And I'm not saying they're doing criminal activity, but they live on the streets, and they're giving a projection of what's on the streets. If we're sitting in nice, comfortable homes, right, I'm sitting here, I'm a middle-aged man, yeah, sitting in my living room, right, I've got a day job, right, and if I started going out and saying I'm a gangster, would you believe me?
No, of course.
But if I made a video,
yeah, exactly,
right,
yeah.
If I made a video and sat, right, I've got a license, right, I'm licensed to hold firearms, yeah?
Right, yeah.
If we wanted to, I could have sat here with like a whole array of guns in the background, right, to give you an image. I could have put a gold chain on, the glasses, right, and I could have been saying, yo, that's life, bro, right? It's like, this is the streets, bro, right? I could have been giving you that, and you would have probably thought, what a twat, right? Is that, you know, right? But I could have projected that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm not a gangster, right? On the other hand, right, we've got people who are trying to make a name for themselves with no output. Yeah, right. So we've got plenty of people on social media just like racking up the likes and the follows. They've got a nice big following, but the substance isn't there. Right. Now, I'm not saying to Punjabi artists, right, Tusi Shador, right, exactly, you know what, you can only do one type of music, but don't know where you're doing the art that you want to project, right? And the same goes with the, right, yeah, girl, I'm in love with you, and you're the only one for me, and if you don't come with me, then, you know what, right, right, okay, wicked. Right, it's okay. Do that. If you want to do Meri Chunni, right, Teri Chunni Hawa Ch Uddi, right, and it's really good and it's flailing and I'm really like intoxicated by the look in your eyes, if you want to do that, do that. That's art, right? That's your form of expression of art. That's entertainment for the people that want to consume it. But you know what? If you're doing all of that and you're not leaving something in this world, right, which can give someone a piece of information or a piece of inspiration that they can apply to their lives and make a better life for themselves, then what's the point?
Yeah. I mean,
there really isn't.
There isn't. I think there's a convergence, right, of hip hop, appreciating hip hop music and being like a Panjabi singer and wearing the clothes and. But when you take that step, in my own personal point of view, when you take that step of holding guns and that gangster image, I think you're going a step too far because everyone knows, look, you're not a gangster, right? You know, you live in Jalandhar and, you know, Chandigarh, and you got a nice house and you got money, you do nice shows, you're not a gangster. But you can also, I mean, there's a young guy, I know you like him as well, Raf Safeda, right? He's come on the scene. He's a fantastic singer. Everyone, you could tell this guy trains his ass off. He's kept quiet. He's put his time and effort in. He's been working hard. He's got a hip hop style of clothing and look, but he's not saying I'm a gangster because you know he's not saying that. he likes to wear clothes like that. That's fine, but his voice is fantastic, and that's kind of what you can do if you enjoy that kind of. Because obviously he enjoys hip hop, you can tell, right? Yeah. He's got a love of hip hop as well, but he's got that style of folk music, which is beautiful. He's got such a great voice. He's young, and he's and I've seen a few posts that he's done. He's got such a range as well in his vocals. You know, when you sing sometimes folk or like a Marnik style, it's kind of a high key, it's a one key, and it's blasting out. But he's got this. I think he done it was a Qawwali or a ghazal. He done a Qawwali, I think, right? And I thought, wow, he's on a harmonium, and I thought this guy's got a lot of range here, and I'm really excited about someone like him. I thought someone like him excites me more than with Sidhu Moosewala, to be honest. Yeah. You know. And
you know what, when you look at it, the one that you're saying, right? Right? I remember seeing that, and I'm like, wow, right? And you know what? When you look at Raf Sapira, there's levels. Do you get it? There's levels, right? His passion for the music. Did you see the interview that he did with the lads at Bhangra Tape Deck?
Yeah.
Right. Earlier on this year, right? So when he's talking through that, what you're learning more about him, right? Exactly. You know what? And this is the great thing. We've got a Muslim kid in Croydon, right? So inspired by like the greats of Punjabi folk music on both sides of the border, right? And what he's doing, he's expressing himself in the way that he knows. He's grown up over here. He's, like you're saying, he's got that hip hop style, right? At the same time, he's a creative in a different world in the videography that he does.
Yeah.
Right. And there's another side to him. There's and that's what it is. There's this art. And like he really, you can tell when someone appreciates art and they do it. And you can tell when people are doing it for that social gratification, right? Raf, in my opinion, right, is a breath of fresh air, right, at this moment in time, right, for what's going on in Punjabi music, right? And you know, I wish him all the best, man. You know, when I've seen his videos, right, I'll tweet it out and I will say that, okay, you know what, carry on, lad. You know what, it's nice, and that's the thing, Sat, is okay. Appreciate people, right, as much as you can. Right, I may be sounding negative on this. I'm not sure. Right, I'm not trying to judge anyone. Right, but I really do appreciate when people are coming out with things, and I will let people know. Many artists will tell you, right, Zaki, I'll probably message them privately because I'm not in that whole, right, yo, bro, Art Karate, right, and this is brilliant, and you know what, you're excellent socially. But if I appreciate your art, I'll send you a text message or I'll send you a WhatsApp message, right, if I've got your details, or I'll DM you and I'll say that, you know what, yeah, this is, you're doing great stuff, man. Carry on, right, brilliant. And this is what we need.
For anyone listening, I can vouch that because you sent me a message many years ago when I had the British Asian podcast, and I didn't know you. Like you said, we don't know each other like that. You know, we're not friends from years back or anything like that. But you sent me a message, I think about a year and a half into my shows, and you said, "Hi, Sat. You know, I just want to say that you know you're doing really well with your shows, and I really enjoy it." Blah. And so you do. So anyone thinking out there thinking, yeah, but he does. He absolutely does. I've still got the message. It's on Facebook Messenger somewhere.
Thanks, man. You know, listen, and that's what it is. It's our mutual appreciation. If we don't uplift and we don't elevate people, right? Then again, what is our purpose on earth, right? We didn't look the great being, right? The Almighty didn't send us onto this earth, right, to go and do day jobs. Yeah, there's something that we've been sent to do that we don't know that we've been sent to do, right? And if we can keep that positive attitude, and we can help people, right, and just give them a little bit of encouragement. There was someone else on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and they mentioned something, and it really like it got to me, right, deep down, that this person's putting so much into what they're doing creatively, right? And they're not getting not the appreciation, but the tweet that they put out there was, right, it's okay, I'm doing this, and I'm doing this for the love of it, and I want to basically make sure that people get the appreciation that they need. But sometimes it's difficult because the people that I want to help elevate don't appreciate that, right? They don't understand that. So, you know what, I sent them a message, and again, same thing, is listen, I'm watching what you're doing, right? And what you're doing is exactly what we need in this fake era of social gratification. So don't stop. Carry on, right? And so, again, this is something, right, if there's one piece of advice, don't like you have that question, right, typical question, right, what would you tell a 20-year-old version of yourself? Right? And the thing I would tell a 20-year-old version of myself is, okay, carry on. Don't stop, carry on. If you've got a passion for something, right, it's okay, regardless of what anyone thinks, remember this is an extension of you. If someone doesn't like that I've got long mucha, I'm not going to cut them off. That's me, right? If you've got a problem with my mucha, it's your problem, mate, right? If you've got a problem with the way I dress, if you've got a problem with the way that I talk, that's not my problem. I'm not carrying your insecurities, I'm here to be me, and I'm going to live my life. And if I can help someone say, okay, you know what, don't worry about it, carry on. That one little bit of Hansla that you can give someone, you could be living the shittest day of your life. And we've all experienced it. You could be down as as anyone can be, right? And then all of a sudden, someone just turns around to you randomly that you don't know, will turn around and give you a smile, And all of a sudden, right, it's like you connect with that person. It's like, okay, you know what, everything's gonna be all right. And we meet people like that. And again, that's the universe at play. That's the Almighty at play, right? Basically making those connections and just letting you know that, okay, you know what, don't worry, carry on. Everything's good.
No,
life is good. Life is good.
Life is good. It's great, you know. And 100%, you're right. You got to, if you enjoy something that you're doing, you've just got to carry on and carry on. Because I and this is experience for myself now. Because when I started the old show, I've never talked about the old show so much on the new one. On to you, right? And I asked, it was a singer, I think, to come on, and they're kind of fobbing me off, saying, we'll do it, you know, Panjabi style. We'll do it, and never actually commit to it, right? And it started to really piss me off, right? And I'm kind of chilled guy anyway, but I was thinking, look, if you don't want to come on, say, look, I don't really want to come on, and blah, 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 fine. But they kept fobbing me off, and for about a couple of days, I was so annoyed, and I was thinking of packing it in just because of this one person, right? And I got a message from Inquisitive, the artist. And good lad. And I'd messaged him months ago, about 6 months ago, and said, "You want to come on the podcast?" And he replied 6 months later, And he goes, "I'm sorry, I'm shit at my WhatsApp." He goes, "Sorry, mate." He goes, "Let's do it." Right. And obviously he's a busy guy, right? He's got a big following. And then my mood changed suddenly. And I was like, yeah, great show. I've got Inquisitive coming on. I was on my 50th show then. And then after he come on and I did the show interview with him, I was on the train home and I was thinking, why was I getting in such a spin about some guy, one person that didn't want to come on for whatever reason? He may not like the show. He may not like the style because it's a different kind of style than a normal interview. Why did I want to pack it all in for this one person? You know, how much influence has this one person have on my life? So now I've asked other people to come on. Raf Safero is another one, right? I don't know. He may come on. Who knows? But there's other singers, and if they don't come back to me or no one replies, I'm not too bothered because there's millions of people in the world, right? And I can't let other people affect my outlook on life, and I don't now. I just stay positive and I carry on. And for anyone doing music, you carry on doing your music. If no one's listening, it doesn't matter. You'll find your little group of people that like your style. If you're doing podcasts, because I get a lot of messages about podcasts. I want to start a podcast. How do I do it? I send them the information, then they realize, shit, it's a lot of hard work, right? And then they'd never do it, right? And but it's never give up, honestly, because if you enjoy something, why give up for other people? Why are you letting other people influence your passion and your love for something? You know, it just seems beyond me now.
And remember, right, it's like, you know, you've got great artists in the world, right, who we appreciate right now after they've gone. Yeah. Now, Picasso, if someone told Picasso, right, I don't like your paintings, do you think he was going to stop? If he did stop, right, would we have the paintings that he's got? Right? No, you wouldn't. Right? So it's you've got to continue. Remember, this is your art. And even like the podcast that you do, Sat, right? It's okay, you know, the British Asian podcast, right? And this is why it was growing. It was becoming its own brand, right? You're doing this now, and this will grow again, and it will become its own brand, because this is something that's true to you. This is your art. This is your natural state. This isn't contrived. You don't need to do this. You're doing this for the love and the passion, right? And that's what's basically coming out. And that's what all artists want. Right, and I'm glad that you've mentioned, right, Inquisitive, because again, he's a brother, right, who, when you look at when he started, right, it's like, you know what, did we really appreciate Panjabi artists? We all had pictures of the gurus at home, right, from artists like Satinder Singh, right, Satinder Singh, right, quite, I mean, he openly said that, you know, the iconic picture of Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaj, right, was based on his granddad. Right, it's loosely based on his granddad, right? So, like, the expression of what Maharaj looks like, first of all, Maharaj said that we shouldn't have paintings of them, right? It's okay, and we'll accept that. But at the same time, right, it's okay, that love is why people do them, right? So when Amandeep started doing, and I saw his art really early on in social media days, I was like, wow, right? And I sent him a message, right? As soon as I saw it, and I'm like, okay, Amandeep, look, I'm not in a position at the moment, but at some point, right, I would really like to commission a picture of Baba Deep Singh from you, right? When I'm in a position to get it done, I will let you know, right? But you know what, just keep that in mind that, okay, you know what, I'm going to come back, right? It's okay, I really appreciate your work, right, carry on. So, you know what, a couple of years later, he did a painting of Baba Deep Singh, yeah? And he messages me, he's going, bro, what's your address? Right, I'm like, why? Because I'm going to send you something, right? When he did that, he sent some prints, right, of that painting. So he sent me like a smaller print of it, right? He sent it over to me, right, and that is like sitting in my son's room because my son loves it so much, right? So like, you know what, we put it into his room, right? But he was a kid when he started, yeah. And if people would have slated his work, that, oh, what's this? If the painting's not right, oh, it doesn't look like the other paintings of the gurus, or what are these little splats that you're putting on them? That's disrespect. If you said that, right, and he got disheartened by it, we wouldn't have the great art that he's got, that he's putting out in the world. There's other young Punjabi artists out there. So a young artist called Jay Kalar. I don't know if you've seen her work. No. Look it up, Sat.
Yeah.
Anyone who's watching this, Jay Kalar, right? You know, on Instagram, go and check out her work. It's her interpretation of what she sees. This is her reality. This is her art, right? Gurukbal Bachchu, right, is another really talented artist. When you look at what he's done and the way that the texture of the art that he creates, that's a level of skill that that he's put hours upon hours on, right, to basically get that done. Another quick shout out that I want to give out as well is I not just music, not just like film and art. I look at art in every kind of way. There's a Panjabi guy called Cloth Surgeon, right? Rav Matharu. I'm not sure if you've heard of this guy, right? This guy is legendary status, but not in the Punjabi community, and that's pretty much a good thing that we don't recognize that, right? Yeah. When you look at when Dave went on which award ceremony it was last year, right? He was wearing a custom piece made by Rav. Yeah, wow. The UK hip hop scene are going to Rav to get custom clothes made. He's got collaborations that he's done with big clothing brands across the world. Yeah, he's got he's had spaces in Selfridges, right, for like pop-ups that he's done, right? That guy is, when it comes to cut and sew and when it comes to like the art of making clothes, right, you will not find a better designer in this country, right, than him. And he's a Punjabi lad, right, originally from Leeds. And I think it was earlier this year, just before lockdown, he did a charity cricket match, right, where he's raising money for charity, right? Now these people, right, Rav Matharu, right, straight off for me is a bigger inspiration, and I want my kids to look up to Rav Matharu, right, and the work that he does and the graft that he's put into his art, rather than looking up to Sidhu Moosewala. Yeah. Right. No disrespect to Sidhu. Yeah. No disrespect to him. What he's doing, if you like his work and you like what he's doing, brilliant, right? But when it comes down to it, right, is okay. Bring other things into your universe, right? Look at what the great work that we're doing as a community, right? And appreciate it. We'll appreciate other designers. Right, is okay. If I don't know, these big ass shoes that Diljit wears, right? Is okay. And these big brash colours, we'll look at those and we'll basically go and get those kapre from Selfridges and high end stores, right? I can't even remember the names of them these days, right? In Neoge, right? But just remember one thing: there is a diamond within your own community, right? Who you don't know about, but out there, right, the people that need to know, the people who know fashion, right, have got pieces by him, right? I implore, right, I would say to Diljit Dosanjh, if someone can get a message to him, Vire, right, Rav Matharu, Bob Badia, right, he's an artist in the way that he makes clothes. I would love for people within our community who have got that profile to go and commissions off this guy, go and buy, right, unique pieces of clothing from them, right, just to show them as well that, okay, you don't need the gratification, right, but we appreciate you, right, and we, I want our kids to look up to people like that and say that, right, okay, if this is one of our lads, he can do it. Steel Bangles, what he's done in music, right, in the mainstream, right, if kids like this can do it, then we need to make sure that our future generations are not held back by that mentality that, okay, we've got to stay in the desi scene. Yeah, expand beyond that. Like you said, Satman Talks, right? British Asian Podcast, right? As great as British Asian Podcast was, where have you blocked off? You've put us in a box.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah? That was it. Yeah.
Get out of the box.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. When we look at the world right now and in countries like there's nationalism, right, which goes under and it's a form of racism, right? In most cases, right? Let's take it back to internationalism. Let's take it back to, right, is okay, we recognize the qualities of the person who it is, and we can appreciate the art that they've got. Today, so I was chatting to on a business call, right? I was chatting to a guy in Scotland, right? If you saw this guy in Scotland, right, is okay, a really big lad, right, and big beard, and you would never have thought that he was into hip hop. And he's like, Stin, when you came down for that last meeting, right, I knew you were into hip hop, right, because you had a Wu-Tang t-shirt on. Yeah. I go to corporate meetings with Wu-Tang t-shirts. Yeah. Right? We're on that level now, right? And he's like, oh, right, my son's 12 years old. He's getting into Jurassic 5. I'm like, wow, right? Yeah. And he goes, yeah. I was like, I used to be into hip hop, and he's picked it up from me, right? And there you go. The love of an art form transcends, right? It transcends communities.
Yeah, and
it's an international community.
Absolutely, and you just reminded me another reason. It was because it was called the British Asian Podcast. I, at some point, wanted to interview people from Canada, America, India even. And again, the name didn't work because I wanted people from abroad by doing it via Skype. I was going to use in them days, but I didn't know about Zoom, and Zoom came out of nowhere. So that's why I got Aman on a few shows back, because obviously he's in Canada, in Vancouver, near Surrey, and I knew he knew people there, and I knew him for a few years. And I said, "You come on, and I'll see if it works. Let's do a test, me and you, see if the connection is good." And if and the conversations are just the same, what the issues happening here are happening in Canada as well for our Desi upbringing community as well. And you're right, it's about being international community rather than putting ourselves into. We do it ourselves as Punjabi people, don't we? We do it with caste, don't we? We're Jats, and my friends are Deccans, right? And they are literally chippies as well. That's what they do, carpentry work, and we have a lot of banter, and but when we was growing up, and this was like in the 90s at school, we never really gave a shit that we didn't really have that. And I've seen lately on Twitter, I was talking to Aman about brown Twitter, and it's big thing about Jat. And and Jat's got egos, and I'll be honest, completely honest. Some of them have, right, but it's a big thing. This caste sort of system. And I was thinking, in the 90s, there was none of this about. We didn't. None of us really cared.
Well, it was there, but it was like, where's the expression, right? Where's the avenue for that expression? And it came through music, and there was music out there that was then Jat influence, right, from especially in this country, right? And then that went over to India, and the whole Jat pride thing that kicked off, right? And is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? If you've got pride in your community, then that's fine, not a problem. But anytime that you're saying that someone else is below you, right? And another thing as well, Sat, right, is don't know half of these people that basically talk around, right, Mejak down, right, it's on a song, right? Go to India, right, for a month, please. Go to your bend, right? Go and sit with your rellies in your bend and be a Jat for a month, right? Yeah. And shall I tell you something? Then your perspective on what it's like to be a Jat in the modern day will change very, very quickly.
Absolutely. It's fucking hard graft.
Yeah. Right. When you got that thing, and you've got to basically manually do stuff, right? Right? It's okay. You wouldn't have a clue, right?
Exactly. My mummy and mummy, they've got calluses in their hands, on their feet, and they're up at the crack of dawn, and it's non-stop. It's non-stop for them. It's only by the time in the evening they kind of have their roti, have a bit of a chat, and they're off to sleep about 8:30, 9 o'clock, because they've got to get up early again, right? And it's continuous hard graft. And you're right, when they talk about Jat and all this, they've got videos. You get these singers making the videos in the Khet, and I was thinking, they've never done a day's work in the Khet at all, right? But I think the point you're making about expressionism of an artist and being true to yourself. I keep name dropping today, but I spoke to GV, and he released an album called Starve the Ego, and it's one of the reasons I asked. One of the reasons I asked him to come on, because it's so different from the normal general Bhangra that was out at the time, and the music kind of that he used to release himself, which he emitted, and I wanted to know why he made that transition to make an album which was quite unique, and also a risk in a way, because he had a name. He still got a name, obviously, but he released this album because he got bored of that cookie cutter Bhangra music.
Exactly.
Vocals from India for 200-300 quid. Get some sample beats. Get that Dolaki sample from Tubbsy's brother. Put it all together, and you've got this song, right? But I think he had enough, so he wanted to have a message in his songs, and I think that the more we try and do that, I think as musicians and artists, writers, spoken word poets, some of them are fantastic because they're expressing what's true to them, their essence in life. And I think that's where real art, and that's how we elevate our art in our community, I think.
Exactly. And Sat, I really rate GB for doing that, right? And personally, that's what I've been doing for a while now. So think about it, right? When Cher came out, right, I wanted to put something out, right? Because God and MC, right, is like, the guy was like a brother, right? I had the vocals. That I've got vocals for Garden MC, which were for his album. Yeah, I was meant to do that album with Twin Beats, right? That didn't work out. They got a deal with VIP Records, and they went off to do that. At that time, I was working at the BBC, and I'm like, Vire, look, I'll do your album, not a problem. We're going to do this. Right, when Garden passed away, right, that's one of my biggest regrets in life, right, that I couldn't do this for him. Yeah. So when I did Share That, it was an ode to him, right? And after that, I kind of made a conscious decision that the music that I'm going to release from here on in, right, is there's got to be a reason behind the music. I'm not going to go down that path of, okay, you know what, just buying a vocal, right, of Teri Chunni Haldi, right, Tera Lakh Patala Kudiye, right?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yeah, right. Right. I'm not going to do that, right? I'm going to try to basically go in and craft things in a different way. And I've learned that from working with DJ Swami, right? When he did the Desi Rock album, right, is like we're in a studio and he wanted tracks written, right, which were which actually related to the raps that he had, right? So there's 3 tracks that I've written for him, right, which when you listen to them, one is more like a Sufi type track, which Master Rakesh sang, and then there's two tracks that Jags from DSI sang, right? And again, what we did is we matched that to lyrically what was what, right? And there's one especially, right, is Nushanar Lala Yari, right, Hooked and Addicted, right? It's metaphorical. And when you listen to those lyrics, right, it's like, you know, there's a double meaning to all of it. And that kind of shit is going to go over most people's heads, right? You won't get that, right? So I made a conscious decision that any music that I'm going to put out now has to be in a way that, that there's got to be some kind of, there's got to be a reason behind it, right? So I did that. Then I did the next single that I released after that was Sarangi Step, right? Now, most people don't know about Sarangi Step because I wasn't out there pumping it. Right, it's like, you know, new single, right? I wasn't spamming timelines. I wasn't sending out to every single person and his dad on WhatsApp, right? I've had a single out for a year and a half, and I had someone 2 weeks ago, right, saying, "How did I miss this? This is sick," right? And that for me was something that I was going to just put out as a musical piece of work, right? Because when you listen to the instrumental of Sarangi Step, and you know, I'd ask anyone, right, who's watching this, right, to go back and listen to it. Well, not because I get revenue streams from it, but it's as a piece of work. When you listen to Sarangi Step, right, from beginning to end, not the vocal version, but just the instrumental, you'll then start capturing what goes on in my head when I want to make music. Yeah, I'm not making music in that cookie cutter style. I'm doing things, right, which are different. And you know what? People wouldn't appreciate Sarangi Step when it came out because it is still ahead of the game. And I honestly, it's not ego that's saying that. Honestly, listen to that and listen to what the music that will come out in the next 2 or 3 years. You hear elements. After that, I've gone on and I've done a couple of beats that were from another Sting, right? And I've given it to a rapper in America in Canada called Sultan, right? Sultan Dylan. Honestly, one of the best wordsmiths that I have seen in years, right? And again, goes back to that point is when you can do the tracks which are commercially to that ilk of, right, you know what the youth want and what's there. That guy's pretty much started a movement in the heart of Punjab, right? So you've got rappers in Punjab, and the story I was going to tell you earlier is just through the work with him, I was getting rappers from, like, kids from Punjab saying, "Bhai, mera rap lekada, right? Mera bhi rap la liyo," right? And I'm like, okay, look, I'm not a rapper, right? मैं बीटा बनाना यार, पर तुसी इन्ना गल करो, innit? Don't know where the guy got my phone number from, but I'm getting WhatsApp messages and audio messages from him. And you know what it was? Is मैं यार मैं बहुत बढ़िया मैं इतना करता हाँ, right? ये कुड़ी ये तेनू नहीं पता, and it's like, you know what, bro, that's not rap. That's not rap, right? You're just putting a string of words together. There's no eloquence. And what I said to him is, okay, right, ਵੀਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ rap ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਇਹ ਸ਼ਾਇਰੀ ਆ.
Yeah.
Right, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਲਮ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਲਮ 'ਚ ਦਮ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ. And this is what Sultan's got. His pen game's strong. So that the tracks, the beats that I've given to him, even he knows that, okay, you know what, Stin Paji, right, Sardar Bandaya, right, Amritari Bandaya, right, I'm not going to do a party track, right, chatting about, like, you know what, booties and shit, right? So the 2 tracks that I've done with him, right, one was called Jad Sodda, right, and the lyrical content of that, right, which is pretty much, right, exactly, you know what, you could have applied it to him as a munna, you could have applied it to me as a saying, similar, right? He did another track earlier on this year that he's used one of my beats called Urta Punjab, right, with a former Mr. Punjab, right? And that track, what they were trying to, Bharat Sharma, what they were trying to do with that track, right, is actually show that, okay, do when people saying Punjab's finished, Yeah, and Punjab's like a drug state, or Punjab, right, is the negativity in Punjab, or the gangster bravado, or that real moist sound of, you know what, right, right? Separate that. Let's look at the achievements of Punjab. So lyrically, that was about the achievements of Punjab. So you can see that already now, the music that's coming out, there's a conscious level to it. The last single that I've released, do you know that I've just done something with I released a Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan single. Have you seen that yet?
On your Spotify?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, okay. So I'll put that out. I had the vocals from Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. Again, it's a Sufi column. So that is something else that's there. And it's different. Musically, it's different.
It is.
People hear it, that's not you. Right? One radio presenter who I really respect is the only one that I send my music to now. Right? Is and he came back with, I don't like it. And I was glad about that, because I don't want yes men around me.
Yeah.
Right. I don't like it because it's not your usual style, and I can't get into this for some reason, which is fine. Right. So that single, it's released on Oriental Star Agencies. I'm not handling the single at all. Yeah. Right. It's not one of my label releases. Right. It's had more hits on YouTube than any of my stuff. Sarangi Step's been there for a year. Right. And I've probably only got 2,000 hits on it. This within 2 weeks, right, I had 50,000, but radio still won't pick it up. Right. So it's not about the numbers, because I know that you're not attuned to that sound. Now, the next single that I've got coming out, right, in the next couple of weeks, right, is a Loktat.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Full on Loktat, right? The beat is taken from what should have been on another Stinting. So everyone who's been saying to me, yo, Stin, listen, can you release what you used to do back in the day? Can you give us another Bhangra, right? That kind of ilk, right? The music is there. Right, and this was done in 2008. I've just slightly refreshed it. Right, the vocals are Garden MC, right, and the song itself, lyrically, there's a message in it, and it's a really strong message about everything that's going on right now. You can apply this; it's universal to any time, right? So when that comes out, I know for a fact, right, that I'm not going to get the likes and the views and the retweets. I'm not going to get that, because I'm not looking for that. But I'll tell you something, if that track goes out and even one person hears that and thinks that, okay, you know what, yeah, this is hard, right, okay, you know what, I can do something similar and I want to do something, right, then that will come out. I'm coining this whole style as Lok Trap. Yeah, so instead of Lok Dat, it's Lok Trap, right? And the next singles that I've got in my mind, right, to release are going down that ilk, that, okay, you know what, I'm going to put out a whole body of music. So by the time I finish this, from start to finish, that whole body of music will not be something which is detrimental. The vocals on Sarangi Step, right, are about that Arnica, right, and unity between like friends and stuff, right. And okay, there is a bit of bravado that is in that particular track, but with the rest of the stuff that's coming out, right, I've given you that party track, which you didn't pick up anyway, right? But here you go. This is all here. Now, all I want to do is make sure that we're older now, sir. We've been through life, and that character, and like I said, all the experiences that we've got young kids, right? And if we can make music that resonates to an extent that we can encourage other people to make conscious music, right? Not for the whole album. I'm not saying that everyone should have like albums full of conscious music, right? Ganwar Garewal is doing a great job, but it shouldn't just be Ganwar Garewal that does it, right? Everyone should have some element of it. When Jazzy does tracks which are Bhangra tracks, but he also then drops one, right, which gives you knowledge, right? Diljit, same thing. And what again? Idol complex. People put them up on these pedestals, and then as soon as they do something that you don't like, or someone inflames the situation, you throw them off, right? Gurdasman, classic example of that, right?
Exactly.
So again, right, it's okay. I want to just basically get music out there that gives just a little bit extra, right? Just to get you to think, right? And if you can, and again, sparking the creativity on a conscious level. I want to see Punjabi music, right, basically produce in the Western era, right? So in the Western age, and on this side of outside of India. So we've got Ganwar Garewal, but I want to see the next Punjabi artist, right, who's like Chronix, right? If you ever heard dancehall music and reggae music, Chronix, again, as someone who I massively admire, I want to see someone like that can release those kind of tracks which are like normal reggae, which are populist, but at the same time, right, can drop tracks which are consciously on a level that when you listen to them, it's like, okay, you know what, I get you. I get you.
Yeah. It's quite interesting. There's obviously a renewed energy within you. I think there's a new phase kind of in your life with your music, and I think you seem coiled up and ready to release some music. And but you seem like you've thought about this, and it's kind of your life has built up to this moment now. This music that's going to come ahead of you, and the fact you're talking about conscious music, I resonate with that definitely, because when I started this show and the previous one, it was about conscious conversation, because I used to listen to upper radio stations and all the stations that we all know, and and they used to have interviews, and they used to be like 15 minutes, and then they will stop and they say, look, the news is on now, so we're gonna have to stop this conversation, right? And then they'll play a song, and then they'll come back to the conversation, then the ads would come on. Commercial radios, there'll be adverts. You're a radio man, you know how it works. And the timer's coming, we've got to play an ad, we haven't played the ad, and the conversations were good at some point, and they'll stop, and I think, no, that's shit, I don't like that, I want to know more. There was a point where the person was getting involved in this conversation, they were getting a bit deep, and so I thought, I want to talk to people, but I don't want to talk to them just about their album. Because the album, because especially in the old Bhangra days, it used to be a reggae one, a remix, an R&B track, a doll track, right? The usual. And I thought, I want to ask them about their life. Why do they want to make an album like that? Why do they want to work with the story? I want to know their story, right? And so I wanted some conscious conversation, and that was the aim, right? And the aim of this as well, because although we've talked about a roller coaster of themes here today, right? We've mainly get a picture of you, and it kind of ties into why the music now is so important, that you're putting out music that you can be proud of, and really, obviously you want people to listen to it, but ultimately you want to sit back in years when you're an old man, older than we are now, and to say, you know what, I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of that body of work that I've got.
I left something here, sir.
Absolutely.
Do you get it?
That's it.
It's the legacy.
Yeah, I absolutely get that. Yeah.
And I'm not doing this for any other reason, right? But for the love of it, and I'm doing it for fun, right? So this doesn't make me money. Like I said, right, I'm in a position where, the job that I'm in, I couldn't ask for a better job, right? It's there, and I guarantee you that I'm not going to even stop professionally where I am right now, right? Is okay. I've got a drive on that level, right? That I'm going to take that to the next level, right? That will always happen. But for music, it's what we've spoken about this a couple of times. Like when I said about Kanye going into a studio and meditating, it's that, during some of my darkest times, I've gone into the studio, I've fed up the Mac, I've basically started to compose something, I've started to play something, I've gone so far into the composition part's not a problem for me, right? I've honestly, right, the tracks that I've done recently, if I look at the total amount of time that I spend, right, the actual arrangement time of those, I've probably done it within 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
What then happens is when I'm in the studio, I start vibing, right? I then get into a zone, right? And once I'm into that particular zone, right, what then happens is I lose myself, right? And I'm then spiritually connected, right, to what I'm doing, and I can basically sit there with a track on repeat, just making a tweak here or there, changing an element here or there, and I can do that for hours on end.
Yeah.
Right. It's a spiritual process.
Yeah.
Right. And it's something that I've found that late in life. Right. And I like this. Right. I like that. I've never had a chance, pretty much, right, to basically tell my things that are on my mind. I did an interview with Hajab Bhangra once on MATV, which was great because Hajab did exactly the same thing. He got the stories out, right? I've given you my story. Now, if nothing else, right, if next week I get hit by a bus, right, my story's there.
Yeah.
I've told my story. And life, and this is something that I say to all of the youngers, right, and especially when it comes to they want to go for job interviews, right, the amount of people that I'm helping with on a professional level, right, life is all about stories. And the most successful people are the ones that can tell their story the best. So when you go into an interview, right, remember you're going in and you're already conscious of, okay, they're going to judge me for what I'm going to say, right? I really need to try hard. Flip it round, think about it. They've got a need for you, Yeah. If they didn't need you, they wouldn't put that job out there. All you've now got to do is through your CV and through the interview prep that you do, go and get good at telling your story. Yeah. And once you tell your story, people will listen.
Yeah.
And when they listen, they will understand, and you will be successful. Everyone needs to learn how to tell their story. And when you get an opportunity to tell your story, you know what? Take it. Don't be shy, right? I'm an average man, sir. I'm not an artist, right? I'm not what anyone would think that people know me for. You know me for music. That's fine. But ultimately, right, is I'm your average man, right? I'm a family man. My family means more to me than anything in life, right? All I want to do is basically make sure that I can live the right life and be an inspiration to my kids, right? That I won't force anything on them, but if they can learn certain elements from me in life, they'll be more empowered. And what they'll go on to do is things that are bigger than me, right? My son is already producing beats, right? He's got people that want to take his beats, and he's 15 years old, right? I've not forced him into that. That's his love. That's his passion. If he continues it, he'll do what he needs to do. My daughter, like I said, you know what? She loves singing. I'm surprised you can't hear her at the moment, because that's all she does is sing, right? And if I can give her the freedom and some of the knowledge around what I know, she'll be better for it. And that's what it is. You know what? Just anyone who watches this, if there's one thing to take away, right, from anything that I say, it's believe in yourself. Right? Go with the flow, get into your natural state, understand from other people's perspectives, and you know what? Just make sure that you can build a positive environment for your family, your children, in your own world, right? And just leave something. We leave this world, leave something here. We're going to be gone. Our consciousness will be gone. Our bodies will be gone, right? But leave something here, whether that's an idea, a sword, a piece of art, right? Whatever it is, don't look at the material. Look at what's going to be the long-lasting legacy of what you leave on this earth, right? If you can clock that, honestly, you might not have a dime, right, to your name. You won't have a penny, even if you haven't got a penny to your name. If you've done something in your life, right, that can live on and people can appreciate, right, you're actually the richest person when you've left this earth, because you've left this place better than when you came.
Stin, you know, I think we could wrap it up there. That's a beautiful monologue you said there, you know, and a very positive message. And but just quickly, I've spent a day with a group of youngs actually in Gravesend at Holy Mohola, right? And because I was taking some photographs, I don't know, you know, I take some photography as well, right? So I spent the whole day with them, and I learned all about the Ig and why they do it. And it wasn't just about, you know, getting high. It was so spiritual, and they spoke to me about everything and why they do it, because I was interested. They offered me some, and I said no, because obviously I've got addiction problems myself, so I didn't want to go down that road. But I told them about it, and they were so impressed that I was so open with them about it, and I had a great time with them actually. So it's amazing.
Was Bob there?
No. I know who you're talking about. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. But he's a character. He's a character, and he's going to be happy with the shout out. I know who you mean.
Robert, as me and my mate Dave called him for Robert.
Yeah, and you two have a lot of banter online with each other. You like winding
I've known him from
I've
known him from the DMU days, right? So when he's done a lot for Sikhi in this country, right? When he was in Boss, right? Some people would say it's debatable that I say that, but from when I was seeing it as a munna, right, what he was doing is he was helping people connect with Sikhi, right? When I started tying a bug and I had a shaved beard, because I was a munna before, right? When I started tying a bug, right, is okay. First, he used to call me Blue Tack Singh. He started something in De Montfort University by calling me Blue Tack Singh. Everyone, because the colour of my bug used to call me Blue Tack Singh. And then people started, when I became Amritari and my beard started growing, people used to call us twins, right? So, like, you know, that's why we can have that banter, right? Because, you know, on a level, right, we've known each other for years, right? Sometimes we may not agree on stuff, right? But the one thing is, right, is, okay, you know what? Every time that we've met, right, we've always given each other that respect and love, right? That, you know what, that we need to give everyone, right? And, you know what, break that ego. Fuck it. It's not worth it, right? It's like, you know, and me and Bob are on level. But Robert, that's what I call him. Robert Seng with a 5G in there for the Seng.
Yeah.
With his conspiracy theories.
Yeah, let's not go down 5G. I'll speak to Ninda Joho about this. And 5G and coronavirus idiots, they really annoy me, right? And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, honestly, right? We're going to leave. No, because we're going to leave it on positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
But look, Stin, I've had a fantastic time. I've learned so much about you, and which I wanted to do. That's always my aim with interviews, right? And and you've been really open, and I'm really excited to listen to all your new music coming out. And you was quite surprised that I heard the Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan song, because I had your Spotify up today, and I thought it's going to be a remix, and I thought, it's a remix of one of his songs, and I was like, it's not. Right, and so I can see you were surprised, but I did listen to it, and so don't you step as well. I will start following you on there, and
don't worry, it's not about that. It's if you connect, if you like it, brilliant.
Oh no, I liked it, and and I was just surprised, and but thank you for coming on. Honestly, I know we've been trying to arrange this for a while, and but this time was when it was going to happen. It happened. It was the one. Wasn't
that's
it. Right?
And you know what? Thank you, right, for basically, for even asking me. It's an honor, honestly, right? When someone genuinely wants to know about you and wants to know more about you, right? It's like, that really is something, and it's never an ego thing, right? I'm a real, outside of what we're doing right now, right? It's like you won't see me on socials giving off, like, to try to promote myself, right? But it's not about that. And you as well, I've got to say one thing, in the way that you talk about your addiction, right, it's inspirational, right, and it's something that people connect with. If you can put a piece of yourself out there and you've got the confidence to do that, you give hope to people, so thanks for doing that. And another thing that I really, really admire about you as well, Sat, right, is, I can see you on social media, and I can see your training regime, right, and you're working to basically make your, a body transformation, right, and you're doing it for your health, you're doing it for your well-being, and obviously, you're going to benefit from that, your family's going to benefit from that, you're an inspiration in that kind of way. I'm a fat bastard, but I will definitely try to lose some weight, right, just basically, off the back of, like, seeing people like you who are making that conscious effort, right, to basically, better their lives and stuff. And the best thing, gone.
No,
I'm going to leave you.
The reason I train is the reason you make music, because that's your alone time, and that's your meditation time. And for me, it's the same thing. And that's why I do it, because when I feel a bit angsty or a bit angry or a bit short with my family, obviously to get healthy as well, but that's my time that's my meditation almost. So that's why I do it as well, right? Just to keep sane, and obviously keep away from the bad demons that are still out there that lurk around every once in a while.
No, that's it. Man jeete jag jeet. The one who can win their mind has won the world.
Exactly. And, right, I found training, and you was going to finish something off. Sorry, I interrupted you.
So I'm glad that we're getting to the end of this, right? And I'm just going to mention this right at the end. Whatever you say and whatever you do, right, just remember one thing, right? You're not back on the perch just yet. You've won one in the COVID Cup, right? You may have one foot back on the perch, right? But let's be straight about one thing, right? It's okay, you know what? There's going to be a lot more that you need to do, right, to basically get back on that perch. And you know what? Ollie's at the wheel. At some point, we will knock you back off it. I had to get that in there right to the end.
I can't believe you've done that. You've thrown a curveball at me at the end, and we was getting on so well.
Oh no, we still get on well. We still got on well, right? Exactly. You know what? Like it was yours to do. End of the day, look, any team that can get that many points right in the beginning of a season, there's loads of things that I could say about. Yeah, everyone else wasn't performing great. That's football, right? You were performing great. You've got the lion's share of the points, right? COVID happened. Right, you were still coming off the back of that, maybe not as strong as you would have. No. And if you would have continued the rest of the season at that point, that's when you usually lose your legs. But forget everything. The main thing is, at the end of the season, it's about who had the most points. You had the most points. You've won the league, and you know, and the feeling that we've had for all of those years, right, those 30 years that you haven't. Right, you've gone and you've got that feeling. So Liverpool fans have got that hope again that your team's going to do well, which is a great thing. And rivalries aside, that's a great thing, right? The cockiness that your fans come out with, that's something that we need to address a bit. But you know, it is, and you know, having an asterisk next to the title, that's fine, not a problem. You still won it. You still got the trophy. But that's it, right?
It's very funny because I was thinking today when I was thinking about this interview later, I thought I'm not going to mention Man U and Liverpool. Don't go in my head. I was thinking, don't talk about football. Don't talk about football. And you've gone and thrown a curveball at me, haven't you? Because I should have gone with my gut feeling and done it.
Yeah, no, that's it. At the end of the day, look, it's banter and it's enjoyment. So, you know, it's all good. But next season, I think it's going to be a different season.
Yeah,
I think that it's good to see that when everyone's back on their A game, right? It used to be a 2-horse race, us and Arsenal. Chelsea came into the mix, right? And now when you look at it, it's okay. You know, potentially next season, top 4, you've got City, you've got yourselves, you've got United, you've got Chelsea. Tottenham, you've got Wolves, Leicester, right? Who'd have thought that teams like Leicester and Wolves,
I know,
right, would be like so successful? And Leicester, obviously, you know, seeing what happened here when Leicester won the league, I won't say we, because I'm not a Leicester fan, but when Leicester won the league, right, every community in Leicester got together, right? Every community, and remember that was just before Brexit. That was just before all of the bullshit that we're going through now, right, was there. And when you see that level of unity, Sat, honestly, right, and if you guys were celebrating that last night in that kind of way, because it's been 30 years of hurt, you've not been able to do it. If you experience what we experienced in Leicester and what we experienced as United fans, right, credit to you. And, you know, I hope that your celebrations last for a couple of weeks. But just don't pipe up on Twitter because I will have you.
I won't. You know what? I've just gone back on Twitter, and it's a minefield out there, isn't it? It's a minefield.
It's good to see you back. It's good to see you back.
With my 49 followers, I'm smashing it, mate.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Tomorrow's. Remember, they used to be Follow Friday.
Yeah. Hashtag Follow Friday.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'll do a hashtag FF, and I'm going to be putting you on there, sir.
Cheers.
For my 200 followers.
Look, Stin, it's been fantastic. I had a great time, man. I really enjoyed it, and I feel really positive, man. You're a positive guy. You've got a lot of energy, and I can't wait to listen to your music. And I wish you all the best. And you're gonna have to put a few things out there on social media. Get the songs out there, mate. I'll share it as well, and let's try and get people to listen. Before you go. We are going to finish it now, and you threw that curveball with football, but can you just let people know where they can catch you on social media, like your Spotify or your Instagram or wherever you're on?
Yeah, on Spotify, just type in DJ Stin, it's there, and you'll find my tracks. On Instagram, it's at Real DJ Stin. That's the same on Twitter as well. Satinder Singh Mattu is where you will find me on Facebook, because Zuckerberg didn't want me to have DJ Stin as a name, but that's fine, cool, not a problem. And then on SoundCloud, if you just type in DJ Stin, on SoundCloud you'll find, you know, just some of the stuff that I'm messing about with. Sometimes I just put it up there for a bit of a laugh, and it gets picked up. And one track in particular, if you can check it out, it's probably the one that gets listened to most on a weekly basis, is a track called Raj's Tractor. And it's, again, a remix, but it's a bit more conscious. Canada love it, India love it, England really haven't caught onto it yet. So if anyone's watching, obviously, if you go on to SoundCloud, just check it out. But the main thing is, okay, just enjoy all of the music that's out there. When you hear stuff which is full of bravado, just remember that, okay, you know what? You don't have to go down that line. You don't have to have that. Just listen to what makes you feel good, whatever it is, right? And you know what? Just spread that love and positivity, right? The supreme power up there, as I like to call them, right? Is okay, you know what? They're within us all, right? Let's just spread that little bit of love and positivity to each other, man. You know what I mean? And once all this COVID shit's over, Sat, right? Is okay, you know what? At some point we're gonna meet in person, right? You know what? And we'll carry on this conversation, right? Just as a private one-to-one as well, because I think that, you know what? There's so much more that I want to know from you. Right, and I want to hear your story. Obviously, with Jugnu being in a Bhangra group as well, right, and your journey in music and radio as well. I think that you don't get a chance enough to express that as well. And I think that, you know what, that's something that we will definitely have a link up on as well. So thank you, Sat. Thank you very much for doing what you do, and you know what, keep it up, man. Yeah, it's much appreciated, honestly.
Thank you, brother. We'll come on again. We'll do it again, and it's been great speaking to you.